Hello, hello, and welcome back to another episode of Women Need to Do Better. Can you believe we are on episode 14 already? Today's episode is about supporting women you don't like. And I know, easier said than done, but we women, we really need to help prop each other up and support each other and rally behind each other because we are not in competition with each other. The more successes we have, the more we can pull each other up, the more we can surround each other with that support, and everybody wins. Now, I do want to preface this episode with I'm not talking about women, and we all know someone out there that we've encountered in our lives that are vindictive or that are not in our best interest to keep in our space. I do believe that 80-20 rule, where 80% of the time you want to surround yourself around people that are going to lift you up, support you, be a positive influence on your life, and no more than 20%, if you can at all help it. Zero, of course, would be the ultimate goal, but realistically, 20% of the people that drag you down, that are those energy drainers, that are the negative Nellies out there. And so I am not talking about the women that are vindictive, that are the ones that are backstabbers. I'll just leave it at that. You know what I'm talking about. And the thing that we need to remind ourselves too is that we women are not in competition with each other. And the better we remember that, the more supportive we can be with each other, and the better that we can grow our community. Because we really do need a community. Think about the times that you have been down or the times that you've needed to reach out. It is so much easier to go through tough shit when you've got a community, when you've got those people that you can depend on. And sometimes it's just somebody that can lend you an ear to bend, someone that you can vent with and that can help you recalibrate so that way you get all that negative energy out, and then you can think straight. Because let's face it, when we're in our emotions, that is the worst time to make decisions. But we have to move through those emotions first before we can actually start getting past them and start making decisions that are going to bring us success or bring us positive things to our life. So the whole spark for this conversation is something that recently happened to me, where I found myself sharing a table, sharing space with a woman that just doesn't think like me. And I don't particularly care for her, but she is somebody that is relatively close in our family. And it was more of a drifting and maybe a recognition, because I've said it many times before, experience is the best teacher. And there are so many things that I have learned since my husband's stroke and the deficits that he's had, the challenges that we've had emotionally, physically, the change in our lives. And it really gave me a better perspective for what other people are going through. And not just other people that have had strokes. I'm talking about the invisible handicaps, the things that people deal with. And I've always known that, everybody has their own baggage that they're dealing with, and you never know what someone else is going through. But it really gave me a deeper understanding of there is so much under the surface, that whole iceberg mentality of, what you see on the surface, you have no clue what's under that water. And so something that she had made a comment to my husband really cut him to the core. And basically, what she had said to him made him feel inadequate and made him question his value. And for her, it was just a flippant comment. Like, I'm sure she probably doesn't even realize how damaging it was. But basically, when people make comments to us that, and let's face it, when they're part of our family or part of our community, there is a level of respect that we have for what they say, and a little bit of value that we put on how they feel about us or how they see us. And so that's where the hurt comes from, is that we do care about what they say about us. We do care, what they think about us. And when you get invalidated, or when you're feeling a certain way and you get dismissed. That never feels right in any way, shape, or form. Anytime that you are saying something that you're struggling with and someone just kind of nonchalantly like, we'll just get over it or just move past it. It's not that easy. And so there's that level of empathy that maybe was lacking and other things that have come to light that just has made me realize that, you know, again, there is nothing wrong with loving people from a distance. And so, how do we support women that we don't naturally connect with or like? And when you have like a past hurt or personality differences or judgmental comments that cut deep, it's harder to have that grace or to move past that. And so those are the things that usually play out in our heads that dictate how we navigate those social situations. And so when I found myself at the table right next to her, knowing that I'm going to have to engage in conversation, and I don't have a problem with engaging in conversation, but I think for me, I was a little guarded because I wasn't sure what kind of comments she was going to make and if I was going to have to flip into my defense mode, but trying to be careful of my choice of words because I do get defensive when it comes to my husband. I love him and I don't like people judging him. I don't care, you can judge me all you want, but I know that he has a little bit harder time being able to deflect those comments and move past them. So while we were having our conversation at the table, she had made some comments about this and that family, what's going on for her and what she's been up to, and listening to her talk. And that was the one thing I think for me, really just being quiet and just letting other people speak because people will tell you who they are by the words they choose and the things that they talk about. What they talk about will tell you what's important to them. And what's important when you're doing this is to listen without judgment. Just kind of observe instead of reacting. And I had to just quiet my mind and not be playing any of those records in my head. I don't know if you guys know what I'm talking about, but when we are around people that we don't really care for, sometimes what we do when we're listening is we are looking for the evidence to prove this is why I don't like them. See what I mean? This is the kind of stuff she talks about. This is where she's saying blah, blah, blah. Those are the things that we latch onto, and that is not listening without judgment. That's listening to perpetuate how we feel, which doesn't let us have better relationships, and we aren't able to let things go. So when I was listening to her talk, what I recognized is that COVID had changed her in ways that she's still trying to navigate. Her life has completely changed from what it was before to what it is now. And I could relate in the aspect of my life now is way different than before my husband's couple of strokes. And so it gave me a way to come in with some compassion because I had something to kind of at least relate to her with. Not that I agree with how she speaks, and I know that she doesn't realize that she's doing, well, I shouldn't say I know because I'm not her, but it's a way that I recognize that she's probably just we're all doing the best that we can. So she's doing the best that she can. She's always judged. It's the way that that's her way, that's her defense to navigate in the world that she lives in, to own her space and be comfortable. She judges others so that way she knows where she's at. And I think women out there understand what I mean. I've tried to explain this to male friends and like my husband, and men just don't quite understand the hierarchy that women have versus the hierarchy that men have. So what I took away from that experience is that she misses socializing because she has withdrawn because of COVID, and whatever her experience with that was, whatever information she got, and however she turned that over in her head of what that means to her and how she needs to live her life. I also recognize that she absolutely loves her family. There's no question about that. And because of how passionately she loves her family, she is able to overlook things that they have done. Maybe, you know, I'm talking about like kids and grandkids. We're all proud of our families, right? We're proud of our kids, we're proud of our grandkids. And even though all of them may not be at a certain standard that other people would judge them at, she's proud of all of them. And I say it in that way because the way that she talks about her grandkids, I've known other children that have been maybe in a similar position as her grandkids, and she will judge other people's kids with a harder eye. And that's fine. We all do what we do because of the lens that we look through. And so then I see, okay, she doesn't see how she judges other people to a different standard than she does for her own family. So what I'm listening for is I'm just listening for ways to help understand her better, because I don't need to judge her. It doesn't matter how she lives her life. That's her life to live, and mine is my life to live. But when we can understand each other, then at least we know what kind of conversations we can talk about, where they might go, what topics we probably shouldn't even discuss, because what's the point? Like, I will avoid conversations if all they're going to do is bring an argument and bring ill feelings. If the people involved that I'm having a conversation with are not open-minded enough, and I hope that's so PC enough to say, to be able to have conversations where we can ask the questions, where we can lean into curiosity and maybe learn something from each other. Oh, that's interesting. That's how you think. Maybe you can explain that to me a little more so that I understand where you're coming from. Because really, we are all going to have our own belief systems. But what brings us together is when we're open enough and we're not defensive, but we're just really curious to learn from each other. And just because we are teaching each other our own perspectives and our own viewpoints, we're not trying to change the other person's mind. We're not trying to bring them into our world like that. It's just about understanding. It's about being able to say, oh, okay, maybe I can see why you think that way. Because really, all we want is to be understood. We want to be able to be heard and understood. And being able to offer some kindness, even in some small ways, to this lady was what I could do. And when I did that inside, something shifted inside of me where I didn't feel like I had to be on the defense. I was able to just kind of let her talk and not worry about correcting her if she said something about something that I knew was different for a medical situation, because we're living it. And that's okay, because what does it matter? That is the one thing that I try to remind myself. If someone's talking and they're saying something that they believe is correct and I know it's wrong, what is the point? Like, what is the point of whatever you're going to contribute to that conversation? Is it to show somebody that they're wrong? Do they care that they're wrong? Is it even a discussion that matters if they're wrong? So these are the things that when you are trying to support other women that you may not really care for, look at yourself. Check yourself first and see, why do you need to respond with whatever you're going to say? What about their comments make you uncomfortable? It's about identifying your own triggers. Is it something in you And if you can shift that perspective, then you can change your own behavior and you can still be supportive. Now, I'm not saying that you got to be best friends. You don't have to be their cheerleader. You don't have to, go out with them all the time. But think about how much better of a experience that's going to be for both sides, actually. And the funny thing about even that little bit of kindness, it goes a long way and magic happens within that. Being kind is something that's going to say way more about you than about that other person, anyways. I would love to hear if you have any comments, if you've had any experiences with someone in your life that you've struggled to connect with. Some of the things that you can do if you can't prevent them from being in your closer space, then just check in with yourself and say, does it really matter what they're saying? And if they do say something to you, whether they're meaning it to be an attack on you, whether they're meaning it to insult you or to try to put you down or to try to make themselves feel better, just remind yourself of the source. Do you really care what they say? And does it really matter what they're saying? And again, I'm talking about the people that they just make comments that they just probably do not put a lot of thought behind how it's going to affect the person that they're saying it to. So just either don't answer if it's something that you don't have to answer or respond to, or say something with grace and some kindness. And if it's something that they are asking where you feel like you're kind of stuck, you can always answer a question with a question. I'm not sure what you're getting at with that question. Because if they don't have any ill intent, it might help them rephrase it in a way that might be a little kinder. But that's my takeaway. And I really hope that you guys can self reflect, help me on this mission for women supporting other women. Everybody, we all need support. We all want to be loved. And kindness is free. And when you give kindness away, it multiplies and it comes back to us tenfold. I love you guys. I hope you guys are having a wonderful, beautiful week, and I will see you the next episode. Thanks for listening. And if you do like what you hear on my podcast, I would love for you to like my channel and subscribe so you can get notified when I have another episode coming out. And if you are looking for some resources, I have my Boundaries Queen library on my Stan store. I've got a link in my bio, and I always love hearing from you. So drop me a comment and I will be sure to respond.